My name is Tessa. I'm 19 years old, and this is how I took revenge on the people who made me feel like I wasn't beautiful enough to be seen. I used to think I was average. You know, not ugly, not pretty, just plain. My friends always called me the natural one, like it was some kind of badge of honor, but it always landed like an insult in disguise. They'd say things like, "You're lucky, you don't need makeup," even as they edged me out of group photos, or gently suggested I just try a little blush for once. I laughed it off. That's what you do when you're the designated plain one in the group. You smile, pretend it doesn't matter, and learn to live on the sidelines of your own social life. Then came Serena's birthday. We were all going out, and the energy was high. Everyone in heels, eyeliner sharp enough to cut glass, lip gloss shining like wet diamonds. I decided to try. Nothing dramatic, just a coat of mascara and a swipe of tinted balm. It was the first time in months I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, maybe this could be something. But when I walked into Serena's house, their reaction was immediate. "Tessa, is that makeup? Oh my God, are you trying to impress someone?" They laughed, not cruelly, not obviously, but enough to let me know I'd stepped out of my assigned box. I played along, chuckled like it didn't sting. Then I saw the photo. One of them had taken it while I was adjusting my hair. It wasn't posed, just a candid snap that caught me mid-blink, mid-movement. All awkward limbs and unflattering angles. They posted it in the group chat I wasn't supposed to have access to. But Serena's phone was on the kitchen counter, unlocked. I don't even know why I looked. Call it instinct. The caption? "When the tree branch tries to be a flower that was it." The exact moment something in me snapped. Not loudly, not with rage, but quietly, like a hairline fracture spreading through my chest. A part of me shattered that night. The part that always tried to be okay with being overlooked, passed over, smiled at but never truly seen. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. I smiled and finished the night with them like nothing had happened. But deep down, I was already planning. I wasn't going to try and be pretty for their approval anymore. I was going to become unforgettable and make sure they never forgot what it cost them. I grew up in a small, gray-skied town tucked away in Oregon. The kind of place where everyone knew your name and assumed they knew your story, too. My mom was a nurse, always exhausted, always moving, always with dark circles under her eyes and a quiet kind of strength. My dad? He left before I was old enough to really remember him. His absence wasn't dramatic, just a low hum of silence in our home, like a forgotten room no one entered. I learned early to keep myself occupied. I spent hours reading, losing myself in other lives and painting. Though I never showed anyone my work, I was the nice girl people liked but didn't notice much. I didn't grow up thinking I was beautiful. And when I did try maybe a little eyeliner, a dress that wasn't oversized, it was like the world around me flinched. People gave me looks that said, "Why are you trying?" As if beauty wasn't something I was allowed to reach for. Then came high school, and Serena. Serena was everything I wasn't. Loud, stunning, magnetic. When she walked into a room, people turned. She decided I was hers. Her project. She called me. I was flattered. At first, she said I was low maintenance, and I thought that meant I was easygoing. It wasn't until much later I realized it meant I was easy to control. She brought me into her circle, live with her flawless selfies and effortless sarcasm. Madison, who always had a new boyfriend and a fresh tan, even in winter. They were the girls everyone wanted to be. I was the girl holding the phone, making sure their angles were right, their smiles perfect. And for a while, I didn't mind. I told myself they liked me, that they were helping me, protecting me from embarrassing myself. I let them guide me what to wear, how to talk, even how to laugh. But the cracks were always there, like the time Liv wrinkled her nose and said, "Don't try that lipstick again, you're not that type of pretty." Or when Madison grinned at me during lunch and said, "You're lucky you're smart. If I looked like you, I'd probably be an engineer too." They'd laugh, and I'd laugh with them, because what else could I do? They made me feel like a side character in my own life, a prop, a placeholder. What they didn't know, what I barely allowed myself to know, was that I had dreams, secret ones. I wanted to act, not on a Broadway stage or in Hollywood or anything huge, just somewhere. I used to memorize scenes from movies and perform them in my bedroom mirror when no one was home. I'd practice expressions, lines, accents. I loved the feeling of slipping into someone else's skin, of being seen even if only by myself. But it felt silly, indulgent. Acting was for girls with glossy hair and glowing skin, girls who knew how to take up space. Not me. Then, during our senior trip to the coast, something changed. I'd taken a photo of Serena, sunlight on her face, waves crashing behind her, and she asked me to hand over the camera so she could get one of me for once. I hesitated, but she insisted. She snapped a single shot, made a joke about how weird it was to see me on the other side of the lens, and handed it back without a second glance. Later that night, I found the photo. I almost didn't recognize myself. The wind had caught my hair just right, and my eyes, usually hidden behind glasses, looked steady, even defiant. I looked striking, not beautiful in the way Serena or Liv were, but in a way that felt real, like someone with a story. Something about that photo stayed with me. I printed it out, tucked it into my journal. I started thinking that maybe, just maybe, I could take up a little more space, try out for the community theater, audition for a college showcase. Maybe I didn't have to ask permission to want things anymore. Now, I'm 19. I live in a tiny studio apartment in Portland, with peeling walls and a window that leaks when it rains. I have a job at a bookstore and take acting classes 3 nights a week. My mom doesn't really get it. She still wishes I'd gone into something more stable. But I'm finally building a life that feels like mine. It's terrifying and lonely sometimes, especially without the safety net of people telling me what to do or who to be. But for the first time, I'm not a side character. I'm the one holding the pen. And this time, I get to write the story. A week after that party, the one where everything fell off, I found myself crying in the communal bathroom of my dorm. The kind of cry where your chest tightens and your throat burns from holding it in too long. I'd thought moving away for college would give me space, a fresh start. But somehow, the past still clung to me like static. My phone buzzed with a new notification, and when I checked it, my stomach dropped. It was a post Serena had uploaded, a photo from the party, cropped to show the 3 of them laughing, with me blurry in the background. The caption was a joke about not everyone being camera ready, followed by laughing emojis. The comments were worse. People piled on little digs and laughing faces, like I was the punchline of a joke I hadn't agreed to be in. I didn't even realize I was sobbing until I heard a knock. Jade, my roommate, didn't wait for permission. She stepped in, saw my face, and didn't flinch. She was blunt, like that, cool in a way that wasn't performative. Not the Instagram kind of cool, but the kind where she wore chipped nail polish and thrifted boots with confidence like armor. What happened? She asked, arms crossed. I didn't have the words, so I just handed her my phone. She scrolled, her expression flat. Then, after a moment, she looked at me and said, Tessa, you look fire in that photo. I don't know what the hell your friends are on. It felt like something cracked open in me. I wiped my eyes and managed a half laugh. You're kidding. But she wasn't. Can I post the real photo? She asked, the one from the beach. The one I'd kept private, hidden like a fragile secret. I panicked. My throat tightened. That photo was personal, like letting the world see a version of me I barely believed in. But Jade waited, calm and patient. So I nodded. She posted it that night. Just the photo, no filters, no tweaks. She tagged me and added to hashtags. Hashtag no filter needed and hashtag natural is powerful. Then she tossed her phone on her bed and said, let's see what happens. It blew up. Like, really blew up at first. It was just Jade's friends commenting kind. Genuine stuff. Then it spread. Mutuals were posted. Random girls med me to say they felt seen. The photo got shared on one of those body-positive accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers. Comments poured in about the expression in my eyes, the rawness, the quiet power. People said I looked real, grounded, like someone who had a story. A week later, I got a DM from someone claiming to be a scout for an indie modeling agency in Portland. My first instinct, spam. I was about to delete it when Jade raised an eyebrow and told me to hold on. She did a deep dive, Googled the agency, checked the guy's LinkedIn, stalked their tagged posts. It all checked out. Legit. Down to their latest campaign with a local denim brand. The message read, there's something raw in your look. You've got presence. Have you ever considered modeling? I didn't know what to say. Me? The sidekick? The background blur? I stared at the message for hours before replying. I said thank you, that I'd never considered it, but I'd be open to talking. We set up a call. He was kind and clear, said they weren't about glamour. They were about edge, story, energy. I hung up, still in disbelief. I didn't tell Serena, or Liv, or Madison. Part of me wanted to keep it mine, just for a little while. But when they found out, it was like lighting a match in a room full of gasoline. First came the texts. Saw your little photo thing. Cute. Then the group chat blew up. Screenshots of comments, passive-aggressive memes. Madison posted a TikTok with the caption, when the quiet one thinks. She's main character energy now. I didn't even have to be tagged to know it was about me. What I didn't expect was how little it hurt. Their words still stung, sure, but something had shifted. I wasn't chasing their approval anymore. I wasn't just the girl behind the camera, making everyone else look good. For the first time, people were seeing me, and not just seeing me, but really looking. And I wasn't about to hide anymore. The shoot wasn't what most people would imagine when they think of modeling. No runway, no couture gowns. It was more commercial, lifestyle-based. Soft lighting, cozy sweaters, bare-faced confidence. Still, I was terrified. I'd never done anything like it before, and part of me kept waiting for someone to point at me and say, wait, not her. She's here by mistake. But Jade, as always, had my back. She helped me pick outfits, practiced poses with me in our tiny dorm room, and gave me a crash course in angles and posture. She said, you don't have to pretend to be someone else. Just show up as you. It sounded simple, but it was revolutionary. The day of the shoot, my nerves were practically vibrating under my skin. But something strange happened when the camera clicked. I didn't freeze. I leaned in. The photographer gave me space to move, to exist in front of the lens without demanding I look a certain way. When the shots came back, I couldn't stop staring. I looked confident, not delicate or hyper-polished like the girls from high school, but powerful. There was a steadiness in my eyes I hadn't seen before, like I belonged in the frame. A few days later, the scout posted one of the photos to the agency's Instagram. Just one. No filters, no edits. And somehow, it blew up. Not in a mainstream influencer kind of way. But people noticed. The comments poured in, strangers writing things like a real face, soulful eyes, undeniable energy. One person said I had the kind of look you remember after the screen goes black. I couldn't wrap my head around it. For so long, I'd felt invisible unless I was being mocked or used as a comparison. Now people were seeing me and liking what they saw. And then, inevitably, Serena saw it too. The text came late at night. Just 7 words. So now you think you're hot shit. I stared at it, pulse pounding. Then another one followed. You're embarrassing yourself. No punctuation. Just venom. My hands were shaking when I showed Jade. She didn't say anything, just took my phone and deleted the notifications. But it didn't stop there. The old group chat, the one that used to light up with beach plans and gossip, lit up again. Only this time, it was about me. They started posting edited photos of me, warping my face into grotesque caricatures, enlarging my nose, making my smile crooked. They captioned it with inside jokes twisted into cruelty. Then came the TikTok. It was a private account, but that didn't matter. Things like that find their way around. Someone from our hometown leaked it. The video was just under 10 seconds, clips of my shoot intercut with old, unflattering photos of me from high school, paired with mocking sound bites and the caption, "Winifred thinks she's a 10. It exploded. Over 100,000 views in a day. My DM is flooded with people I hadn't talked to in years, sending me screenshots, asking if I'd seen it, telling me to ignore it while feeding me the poison anyway. Even my mom saw it. She didn't say much, just asked if I was okay, her voice tight with worry. I told her I was fine, but I wasn't. Not even close. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't look in the mirror without hearing Serena's voice in my head. The weight of it all pressed on me like wet cement. The humiliation was total, suffocating. I kept thinking, how dare I try to become someone? How dare I step out of the frame they'd built for me? For days, I shrank. I skipped classes, ignored calls. I let the shame pull me back into the shell I'd worked so hard to break out of. Until one night, while I sat on the floor of our dorm room, knees pulled to my chest, Jade knelt beside me. She didn't offer pity. She offered clarity. "They're terrified," she said quietly. "You were never meant to outshine them. That's why they're screaming." I looked at her, startled. "What do you mean?" She leaned back, arms resting on her knees. "People like that, they pick girls who won't threaten them. You were never supposed to grow. You were supposed to stay quiet, stay small, make them look better by comparison. But now you're stepping into yourself, and that scares the hell out of them." Her words settled into me slowly, like rain soaking into dry earth. For the first time, I saw it for what it was. This wasn't about makeup. It wasn't about who was pretty or who wasn't. It was about control, about power, about how people react when someone dares to break free from the role they've been assigned. I wasn't embarrassing myself, I was threatening the fragile illusion they'd built around their own importance. That's when something shifted. I stopped crying. Not because I wasn't hurt, God. I was, but because the tears were no longer useful. I wasn't ashamed anymore. I was angry, furious, even. And beneath that anger was something deeper. Purpose. I started planning. Not revenge, not in the petty, teenage way, but something better, bigger. I reached out to the scout and asked about more shoots. I updated my portfolio. I submitted to castings for short films, student projects, anything that would let me step further into this version of myself that I was only beginning to know. I started journaling again, writing down everything I'd held back for years, stories, monologues, dreams I hadn't dared to say out loud. I let Jade photograph me not as a model, but as myself, barefaced, honest. And I posted those photos, not with hashtags, but with truth. I didn't hide anymore. I let myself be seen. They can keep mocking me. They can keep shouting. But I've finally realized something. The louder they scream, the more power I know I've taken back. I created a separate account late one night, fingers trembling slightly as I tapped the first post into existence. I didn't use filters. No, carefully curated angles or trends. Just me, raw, real, mid-transformation. I documented the process of learning how to exist in my body with pride instead of shame. Not a glossy glow-up, but the slow, messy, powerful reclaiming of my own story. I posted the good days and the hard ones, the behind-the-scenes of shoots, the tears I still sometimes cried, the moments of quiet strength, like standing in front of the mirror and not flinching. I wrote captions that felt like exhaling truths I'd swallowed for years finally coming up for air. People responded. At first it was a trickle, a few likes, a handful of comments from strangers who said they'd felt the same way. But the trickle grew. Messages started pouring in from people thanking me for putting into words what they hadn't been able to say. Girls who said they'd been the side character too. Boys who admitted they learned to hate their reflection. People of all kinds who had been told they weren't the right kind of beautiful. I never named names. I never mentioned Serena or Liv or Madison. I didn't need to. The story spoke for itself, and the truth doesn't need a villain's name to be recognized. Then came the brands, small ones at first, indie projects, zines, community campaigns. But then a cruelty-free beauty company reached out. They specialized in anti-glam campaigns, all about stripping back the polish and embracing what's real. They said my posts had inspired their next movement. #unfiltered DOES and single quotes T mean unworthy. They wanted me not a model, not a polished influencer, me to be the face of it. I almost couldn't breathe when I read the message. It didn't feel real. And yet it was the most real thing that had ever happened. The launch party was in Portland, hosted in this reclaimed warehouse turned gallery space, brick walls, glowing lights, a soft hum of excitement in the air. Press, bloggers, photographers, people I never imagined sharing a room with. I showed up makeup-free, in a simple black dress I'd found at a thrift store, my curls left wild, my skin bare. Not because I was making a statement, because I finally felt like I didn't need to hide. The photos from the campaign were everywhere. Huge prints of my face mid-laugh, eyes squinting in sunlight. One where I looked dead into the lens, raw and open. The tagline, "Unfiltered doesn't mean unworthy." People came up to me all night. Strangers, editors, a girl who'd traveled hours just to be there, clutching a copy of the campaign zine like it was a lifeline. I smiled until my cheeks ached. I kept looking around, thinking, This is mine. I built this. And then, like some scene written for dramatic effect, Serena walked in. Liv trailed behind her, both dressed to kill, faces carefully painted, heels clicking too loudly against the polished floor. For a second, they looked like they belonged. But then their eyes scanned the room, landing on the massive prints of me. Their expressions shifted, first confusion, then realization, and finally, a fury that curled at the edges of their perfectly lined lips. One of the stylists leaned over to me and whispered, "They tried to get in using your name. Said they were part of your team." I almost laughed. I didn't. I took a breath instead, the kind that fills every part of your chest. I turned and walked toward them. Not hurried, not hesitant, just steady. I could feel eyes on me, bloggers, stylists, maybe even a camera or two, but I didn't care. This wasn't about spectacle. This was for me. I stopped just in front of Serena, my spine straight, my chin high. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me, and maybe, in a way, she didn't. I wasn't the girl who took her group photos anymore. I wasn't the blurred background. I was the story now. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, calm and even, "Still think I should have sat that photo out." She didn't speak. Not one word. But her eyes said everything: shock, anger, maybe even regret, but mostly fear. The kind of fear that comes when the thing you thought you owned breaks free and shines brighter than you ever thought possible. She looked at me the way a cage looks at the bird that escaped. I didn't stay to bask in it. I turned and walked back into the crowd, the soft hum of laughter and clinking glasses welcoming me back into a world I'd earned. Not because I changed for anyone, but because I finally stopped apologizing for being exactly who I was. I never responded to their texts after that night. Not a single one. They trickled in slowly over the next few days, thinly veiled attempts to backpedal, to rewrite the narrative. "It was just a joke," Serena said. "That's just how we talk, love language, remember." But I've learned something vital. Cruelty disguised as care is still cruelty. I don't make space for it anymore. I don't let people shrink me with their sarcasm and call it affection. I don't owe anyone an explanation for growing out of the box they put me in. I'm not a model now, not really. That was never the dream. But it opened a door. People started inviting me to speak at schools, to sit on panels about body image, self-worth, and the invisible ways people are taught to keep themselves small. I talk to teenagers who remind me of myself, quiet, kind, unsure where they fit in. I tell them that it's okay to want more, that the people who mock your shine are usually just terrified of their own shadows, that someone else's discomfort is not a reason to dim your light. That campaign, the one that changed everything, it funded my acting classes. I've been studying hard, learning how to bring characters to life, how to command attention without begging for it. And last month, I landed my first small role in an indie film. Just a couple scenes, nothing huge. But I walked onto that set with a steady heart and a spine made of everything I'd survived. The director said I had presence, that I didn't need to act so much because the truth was already in my face. And yes, I wore makeup for the role, because I wanted to, because the character called for it, because I felt like it, not because I needed it to hide, or prove something, or convince anyone of my worth. That kind of choice feels radical when it's finally yours. I don't hate Serena anymore. I used to when the wounds were fresh, when her voice echoed in my head more than my own. But now, I just see a girl who never learned to feel beautiful without controlling someone else. I don't think she ever believed she had value outside of attention and power. That's a sad way to live, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But that doesn't mean I'll step back into her orbit. I won't be her sidekick again. Not for the nostalgia, not for closure, not even if she apologizes someday. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not afraid either. I'm just me, full, free, unapologetic, and I've never felt more powerful. I look in the mirror now, and I don't see a project. I don't see someone who needs fixing, or softening, or shrinking to fit into someone else's comfort zone. I see me without filters, without fear, without shame. The girl who used to hide behind the camera is gone. In her place is someone who owns her story, who takes up space without apology, who finally believes she belongs not just in the frame, but at the center of it. I still have moments of doubt, everyone does, but they don't define me anymore. They don't hold the same power they once did. So if anyone watching this, listening to this, has ever been told to tone it down, to sit it out, to stay in the background where it's safe, don't. Please don't. The world will try to convince you that you're too much or not enough, that you need to earn your place by being agreeable, invisible, easy to manage. But none of that is true. You don't need permission to show up fully as yourself. You never did. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't clapping back or proving a point. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living, thriving, becoming everything they told you you couldn't be, and letting them watch you shine without ever needing their permission to do it.